Hey, this is Yang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Emmy Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. If you think you need to stick to just one career to build wealth, this episode will change your mind. So many professionals, especially doctors, believe that the only path to success is to working more hours. But what if there is a smarter way? Today, I'm talking to Dr. Alex Tim, a chiropractor turned real estate investor and entrepreneur who went from running a medical practice to co-owning over 200 multifamily units, all while helping other healthcare professionals grow their wealth and reclaim their time. And it's not just about what he does, but about his mindset, about the way that he looks at life and the way that he lived his life. So I'm just really beyond excited for you to hear his story. Alex, welcome. Help our audience know a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, Jen, thank you so much for having me on. To start off from the get-go in the beginning, my family came to the United States from Hong Kong when I was 8 years old. And I believe, from what I could remember, I was only notified that we were going somewhere else about 4 to 5 months beforehand. And here's how I know. The only reason that I knew was because they put me in after-school tutor sessions out of nowhere. Like out of nowhere, I had to go from having a full day of school to going from 4 to about 8 p.m. just tutoring sessions every single night. And I didn't know what was going on. I said, all of a sudden, why did I have to learn a new language? I knew like some words like bus or John and Sally, those names, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I was immersed into a class where, you have a whole class full of other Hong Kong kids. And I don't know if I really learned that much. And coming to the US, you just didn't know much. And we had a spelling test the first day I attended class in September. It was crazy. They were like, oh, just write the first letter. I'm like, I don't even know what you guys are saying. Well, sound it out. I didn't know how to sound things out. It was ridiculous. I was always told to just work hard in school, right? Kind of the Asian mindset is, oh yeah, you did great in school, you'll be okay. And I was swimming competitively in high school and was on the bowling team. And my mom was like, as long as you do good in school, you can do those things. But I started working early on. So like 13 years old, I was already working. Of course, not legal. I was paying cash. I think I was earning like $30 a day, and they included lunch. And it was for a meatball factory.
Oh, cool.
Where they would take the meatballs to the stores, and they trusted me with one of those hot pot stoves. And at 13 years old, I would cook it and have people try it. And I'll stand out there for like 10 hours a day. So I've been working since I was 13. So that was part of my life since then. When a family can't provide that much, you got to just as kids, do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah, that's
I love what you
journey,
share. And that is so funny. I also learned English back in Vietnam. And I'm guessing probably the same with Hong Kong. We learn British English.
Yeah, the British English.
British English. So we learn things like cornflakes. How do you do to say hi? And I remember coming to the US and I kept saying like, how do you do instead of hello? And people was like, what the heck? I have never heard in my life, now that I've been here, like people would actually say, how do you do? But that's what we learned growing up.
Right.
So that's funny that you share that. And especially for you coming from Hong Kong, like the whole letters, everything is different. So yeah, the whole like sounding it out is like,
yeah,
we don't even sound the same way. So that's very interesting. And I love what you share about that Asian mindset, especially a lot of immigrants overall, is that what we have to rely on a lot is just working really hard. That's what we have, right? Just coming from a different country with nothing over here. We always relying on ourselves, working really hard. And it served us well to a certain extent. And then at some point, as you realize, it becomes more of a clutch, that it can be detrimental if there is no other side of it. So I'm excited to dig a little bit more into how to go from that just hustle mindset, work, doing whatever it takes, to now being more selective on doing things more of the smart way instead of just keep hustling. So I'm excited to dig more a little bit into that. So you shared that you was working really hard as you're growing up. And I'm sure for a lot of immigrants, that high education, there's a lot of focus on that, right? Getting a good degree, doing really well in school, getting a good job. How do you then kind of go from that to doing what you do now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Being in school, you always have to do well. And in college, initially, the medical doctor route was going to be the initial route. And what changed was my mom having trigeminal neuralgia. It's a nerve pain in 2022. And ultimately, she got helped in 2024 through a doctor and changed my mind as wow. There's a more holistic way of doing things, because from 2002 to 2004, she was getting all kinds of pain medications, Botox shots into her neck, cortisone shots, until the doctor wanted to have that surgery. And when we found a chiropractor who was able to help, and I saw that, he has his own practice, but he was able to help my mom. My mom improved 50% over about 2 to 2.5 months, something that no one was able to even help her do for 2 years. And going into chiropractic school, the natural route is to come out to own your own practice or work for someone else. And while I was in school, I just worked really hard to figure out, how does owning a practice even look like? So during the last year and a half of school, I went to volunteer at 3 different chiropractic offices.
Nice.
I went to seminars because they gave free seminars to students. And I said, I'm just going to go. I mean, these doctors are paying thousands of dollars a year for seminars, and I get to go for free. I'm just going to go and really figure it out.
Wow.
So graduated in 2008, opened our practice in 2009, has really taught me a lot. It was hard at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you really are kind of out there on your own. You have tips and bits from different seminars, and you continue to improve yourself. But in 2016 was where I had a mind shift, where I started doing things outside of just the medical space on self-improvement. I said, I got to figure out how to get better in what I do, not just being a better doctor. In 2018, I went to my first 10X conference with Cardone, and I read a lot of his books before. It was the Be Obsessed or Be Average. That was my very first self-improvement book. And that's where I learned about syndications and real estate. And I was like, wow, I could have passive income. I didn't even know what that was. And that just really opened up my world to everything. And it was just that one decision to pick up a book and just dive deep.
Wow. You share some very important stuff that I really want to emphasize for the audience to hear. As you're just coming out of school, right? You do see the 2 paths there, either work for yourself and open your own practice, or go work for someone else. And that is something that maybe a lot of our audience may be facing. And what you did there is you just kind of what we call market research, right? You kind of going through seeing what it looks like from either perspective. So shadowing, just reaching out to people who run their own office, going to seminars. Those are some very important things that the audience can do. Like, hey, I'm facing with 2 decisions right now, and I don't know what to take, right? The best thing to go out there is go talk to someone who's doing it. Go take some education, because that's when you can actually gather the information instead of standing still and figuring out, like, not sure what to make, right? So props to you for really gathering the information to then decide. And I love that you jumped into opening your own practice, not fully knowing everything, right? Because nobody knows everything when they take their first action. So that's the second important piece that I want the audience to take away, is that you can prep all that you can, but it's very important to take that action next, because you will never know 100%. You're going to have to figuring out as you go. So I love all of that. And then the third piece that I want the audience to take away is that at some point, it's a lot about developing yourself as a human being, as an entrepreneur, because you already know the technical side of being a chiropractor. But what really make a difference is that developing yourself as a human being, as an entrepreneur, that really opened things up for you, I'm guessing, from growing your business and growing wealth overall and doing all these different things. So I want to first dig into how your business has transformed throughout that whole ownership, because this can be really relevant for our audience, because for a lot of our audience, they may already have a technical skill in something. But going from being a technician to a business owner to running a practice, there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of things that they don't teach you in school specifically. So tell us more about, like, maybe give us the 3 things that you felt like was very important that you learned going from being a chiropractor to a business owner and running your own clinic.
Yeah, one of the first things I realized when I was going to seminars is you cannot just put up a sign and people will start showing up, right? You have to not only be great at what you do, but you have to understand how to market yourself so that other people would know what you do. And then from there, there's a thing called sales, right? That people look at. And sometimes it's got a negative thought to it, like, oh, I don't want to be sold anything and this and that. But what most people don't realize is sales is a communication of value, where if the customer or the client or the guest understand what's the value of what you are providing, that communication is sales, right? We call that in sales. So learning how to communicate, it's not so much sell, it's communicate what you know and apply that to what a client is potentially looking for. Just even understanding that that is a process is huge. I started off hiring one assistant, and then in 2011, we hired another doctor, another assistant, and I was working out of a 16 square foot office for the longest time. And we were only providing chiropractic services, right? Just adjustments. And as I went to more seminars and learned, what people realize is as you learn more, you're going to realize there are other tools that can help your clients achieve what they want to achieve. You know, initially it was mainly getting out of pain and being healthy. But eventually we got into more deeper, serious, more chronic cases. And that's when we incorporated spinal decompression to help with disc bulges, laser therapy to help with inflammation, circulation, shockwave therapy to start breaking down scar tissue, and then ultimately regenerative medicine and stem cells as well. So what that means is when you look at all those little tools that helps out, it's more tools in your toolbox that you have to continuously learn. See, we can't just come out of school and know the same thing 5 to 10 years later, right? It's not going to fly. We now have 4 other staff, 1 doctor. We're looking for another doctor, but we also have a team of 9 virtual assistants. In 2017, I learned how to work with virtual assistants. 2017. And because I was the one editing videos, doing newsletters, and sending out emails, where I said, who can help me with that? And that's when I discovered, I didn't even know it was a thing, a virtual assistant in 2016. And now we have 9 that specifically works on the business. I have my executive assistant as well, and that's really helped me buy back my time and be able to show others more of what we do on the marketing side of things. So that's been a huge shift for me in the long run.
Wow. So first thing, marketing and sell, right? I think that's a great mindset that you brought up there, especially for a lot of professionals who are not used to the marketing and sales world. Like my background was, I was a scientist. And in that case, right, also not a lot of marketing and sales. So there is that negative connotation to what sales looks like. And what you brought up is great. It's just communication, right? What you share about your mom, like decreasing pain 50% in 2.5 months. If that's something that's available, why wouldn't you want to tell people about it, right? And so I love what you share about it's just communication of the value that you can provide. Somebody may find it helpful, some people may not, but just shifting that mindset of sell into just communication of the value is a great mindset that you brought up. The second piece that you brought up there that I really want the audience to take away is that people. I remember we talked and you were saying that people, the human resource, has been always the biggest piece of growing anything, growing a good business. And I would love for you to dig a little bit deeper into your mindset and also just how you approach the human resources of a company. I guess 1, how you hire, 2, how you train, 3, what are your tips on like retaining good people?
That's a great question because with people, you need all 3, right? How to hire, how to train, and how to retain.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how to hire. First off, before you even hire, you have to understand, what are you hiring for? What are you looking for? And what you're looking for comes back to the trajectory of where your company is growing. When you look at a growth of a company, you have to look at, okay, here's my processes, here's my projection, my vision, and who are the seats, right? It's like seats on the bus. What are these seats on the bus? How do you fill these seats? Who are these people? You have to have, number one, before you even hire anybody, you have to understand what your mission is, like the mission, vision, and core values of a company. That's like the baseline. Before you even have that, it's hard to even hire somebody, because what are you going to tell that person? What are you going to tell them that what you do? So when you hire that person, you have to know what you need, but also communicate to them, this is what my mission is for this company. This is where I see it going. That's the vision. And here are my core values. The core values are like your non-negotiables. That's how you hire, fire, give raises, everything. So you have to make sure that person fits that model. They have to be able to say, yes, that's me. This is what I'm looking for. I want to grow with you, and I can see myself growing in this company. So let's say you find the right person. How do you train them? See, I have like a 4-step training process. If I need you to do certain things, even if I have the SOPs written out, phenomenal. Maybe you just watch a video, right? Figure it out, give you a book and all that. But these next few steps is key, even with the knowledge that you have. Step 1 is you have to work with someone who already knows what they're doing. So all you do is just watch. Because it's one thing to watch a video, but it's something else to watch a live person do it. For example, if I'm training a doctor, right? That doctor is going to be with me hip to hip until they can see what I do. That's step 1. Step 2 is now I get to watch them do certain things. And they still spend half their time watching me, but then I spend half my time watching them. Step 3 is now they spend 20% of their time watching me. I spend about 80% of the time just watching what they do and giving them feedback as they're doing it. And the 4th step is now they get to spread their wings and they get to do it on their own. You have to have that in terms of training. And videos can do it, but that hands-on, you just can't substitute that hands-on. And when you talk about retaining, we have usually quarterly one-on-ones with our staff members, where every quarter we sit down with them to have a one-on-one conversation, and they're built around their PPFs, their personal, professional, and financial goals. So we ask them what their personal goals are, professional goals, financial goals, which is usually all tied in together. And after understanding these goals is to be able to work with them and figure out, how can my vision fit into their vision, or how their goals fit into our vision? Like, how can we help them achieve those goals? Because if you can't help them achieve those goals based on what you do as a company, chances are they're going to find another company who's going to help them achieve those goals if they're a good staff member.
Yeah, what really stood out for me is during the hiring is, first, it start always with the business owner, right? You have to know, what is it that you are hiring for? Because you're hiring like, hey, yeah, I'm just hiring somebody to do everything in the company. You're already setting yourself up for failure. So love what you share about just that hiring piece. Is it always start with the business owner knowing what you're hiring for, knowing your vision, your mission statement, your core values, all of them need to be in place before you even hire, right? Because to your point, if you don't know where you're going, then you can't bring on the right team member. The second view of training, what really stood out for me is how you really setting them up for success. That is not just like, hey, go to the deep end and see if you can swim. It's very much like that quality control, allowing that you are delivering the best care to your patients. And that come with a step-by-step in order to also set your people up for success. Love that piece. And love that third piece that you share about retaining, right? Because everybody who's working is a lot about what's in it for them. So I love that you have this really well-rounded approach about personal, professional, and financial goals, so that now you can actually align that person goals with the company goals. And now everybody is growing together instead of separating paths. So really important piece that you just shared. Thank you so much. I definitely want to switch gears and talk a bit more about your real estate piece, because that's something I really want people to take away, right? Especially for a lot of people who are listening who may have something that they do, a business, they may already have a professional career, and now they're thinking about building wealth investing, right? Tell me a bit more about what you do now in that side of real estate, why you still have your business and how you kind of balance both all of that.
You have to find a vehicle in life that's going to hopefully replace your income one day, because you never know. People invest for the future and for stability. And when you look at real estate, why did real estate was so attractive from the get-go? And it's the right real estate. Knowing how to buy, what you're buying, and how to manage the finance. Those are the things that I learned in Jake and Gino when I first did the active side of things. Buy right, manage right, finance right. When you look at the background of real estate and why I chose it is, hey, what if one day an accident happens? What will happen to my family? Yeah, you have life insurance that pays for a lot of stuff, but in the long run, how do you secure more of that financial stability? And when I realized what passive income was, I was like, wait, to be financially free, right? Financial independence, people throw that term around. I said, how do you define that? Is to have your expense numbers, whatever you expense every single month, to be covered by your real estate. And I was like, oh my God. So we started striving for that, where our real estate eventually, covers everything we love to do in life, at least the needs. And then the next step is to cover up what you want to do, right? Not just the needs, but what you want, all the vacations and homes and whatnot. So what's that path look like? And that's what real estate has really done. And I went from being passive from 2018, 19, and 20. And in 2021, I joined Jake and Gino, the educational group. And then in 2022, joined the MIH mastermind, which is how we met. And since then, between any JV deals, any GP deals that we're part of, and even syndications that we're part of, where those are just, hey, write a check, get a check back. All of those deals since 2021 has been with MIH members. And could we, my wife and I, go out and just do deals on our own? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Instead of investing with others, you invest on your own. But at the same time, you don't have that connection. Connection and relationship is very huge for me. So being able to do that with others has been phenomenal. And I want to keep doing that at our work because I love what I do. Seeing patients, seeing their success, and making a difference and impact in our staff and employees' lives are really amazing. And real estate just another vehicle for us to continue to grow over time.
I love that. I love what you just framed there in terms of vehicle. Like the real estate is a vehicle for people to consider building wealth. A few things I really want to stress that you mentioned. The first thing is you're doing all, right? You're having the VA company, you're having your chiropractor business, you have your real estate investments. So for the audience who's listening, right, you do not need to quit whatever you're doing, whether it's W-2, whether it's all this thing, to invest in real estate. And to your point, the moment that I learned that financial independence is possible, because I didn't know that growing up, right? And maybe same for you, like I don't have people around me who have achieved financial independence. Like my parents were teachers, they work all the way until they retire. And so I didn't know that concept was even available and let alone achievable, right? So that is just an important concept for people to understand. And I love the way you break it down. That is just like, hey, it's not the term that get thrown out there. It literally just mean that your passive income exceed your expense. And that's when you do no longer need to trade your time for money. So I love that you share that concept. The third thing that I really want people to take away from what you share is the fact that they do not need to do this alone. You plug yourself in as a part of the community, right? It's not only easier, but it's fun. And that's a concept that I really want people to be able to explore. A lot of us are just so used to doing things the hard way and doing things all by ourselves. And so I really want people to explore what does it look like to grow with ease. It just opened a whole new world when people realize that it's possible to grow and not have to struggle through it, and how it makes things more sustainable and enjoyable. So I love what you share about growing as a part of community, as a part of finding other people that can help you build wealth and build their wealth along with yours. I would love for you to share the framework of
Mm.
what you say yes to and what you say no to. Because at this point, for a lot of us, time is that limiting factor, right? We all have the same amount of time. Tell us more about how you choose to spend your energy and what you say yes to, what you say no to.
Yeah, saying yes. When you have time, you get to say yes to everything. When you don't have time, you really have to choose what you say yes to and what you say no to. Before you even say yes or no, part of it is trying to figure out who you are as a person and what's most important to you. Because that's one of the things that my executive assistant does. And she's very good at blocking out times and asking me, hey, Dr. Tam, is this what you want to do? Do you want to do this? Right? She's like my gatekeeper of my time because I value my time now. And she has to understand, and you have to understand as a person, what is your ultimate goal in life? Does what you say yes to align with that, right? Does it help you make that impact and align with your life goals? One of the exercises I did about a year and a half ago is wrote out a eulogy. And eulogy is something that people write out when they passed and someone talks about you. Writing that out and then reverse engineering that allows me to figure out, do I say yes and no to certain things? Because number one, if it's a yes or no, does it align with your life goals? And you say yes. Okay, if that does, then what are you giving up to be able to do this? Because you're giving up something, right? You're always giving up something. No matter how much time you have, you're giving up something. And then third is, does that something get replaced or do you just not do it? And if you can answer not do it, then the question is, was that even important to begin with? And the fourth thing I ask myself is, does that one thing you're saying yes to give you energy or not? Does it feed you or does it rob you of energy? And like, for example, this call, choosing to do this call feeds my energy because it's impactful that people need to know how to grow and scale, especially immigrants like ourselves. So all four questions have to align before I say yes to something. And if at any point in that scale, you could think of it as a funnel and it breaks down when there's a no that comes up, then we don't do it. It's really easy.
I love it. I'm not even going to summarize that. Just go re-listen to that piece, you guys. Just re-listen to that. And whenever you have a decision to make, because Alex just broke it down so clearly, so eloquently, and just go re-listen if you needed to. I would love to switch to our mystery question. This is a question that got left behind by our previous guest. And your mystery question is, what advice would you give your younger self?
The advice that I'll give my younger self, that's interesting. I think about that because when I mentor other doctors, I would tell them certain things. One of the advice I would give to my younger self is don't chase the shiny objects. As kids, when you don't know what you want growing up and in a lower income community, one of the things we watched was MTV Cribs back then.
That is so true. I don't know why I watched that too.
Yeah. And you just see people with
God.
massive homes, cars, watches, and all that. And that used to be all over my goal board. You pull up a 2012 goal board and it's just all about money and watches and all those things. Until you could afford it, then you ask yourself a question. Why was that even on there to begin with? So I would tell my younger self is go after what is true to you, not what is true others have shown you. Because what's true to them is not what's true to you. And there isn't a one way to attack life. Everyone attacks it in a different way. For me, I value relationships and experiences. I would forego a nice car and spend the amount of money on a car or twice as much of one on a trip and an experience. And that's one thing I wish I knew when I was younger is you chase objects and tangible things. Why? Because it looks cool at the time, made you feel good. Because when you don't have it, you want it, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for me, I would say, hey, you got to spend time with your family, have experiences with friends, and that's where memories are created.
Wow.
That's what I would say to my younger self, because that's what matters at the end of the day for me.
I love what you share. And that's hilarious that you share about the MTV. When I came over here for college, like we didn't have cable and stuff. back home and
Yeah.
we don't really have access to MTV. So when I came over, somehow MTV is like the thing that is always on. And so I watch a lot of these MTV show. And to your point, I think this is how a lot of media portray what success looks like, right?
Right.
So for a lot of us growing up, that was like what we see as success until you then get to know more about what success truly means and you actually get a choice of what success means. That's why I think these podcasts are important because I really want people to get exposed to successful people who cares about memories, about experience, about family. And there's nothing wrong with fancy car. You can have both. You can choose. But that's the most important piece that I want to take away is that people have choices of what they want their life to look like. And circle back to that fourth question you asked about the decision, right? Does it align with your energy? How is your energy coming up to
Right.
it? Does it fulfill you or take away from you? And that's really important piece that I really want people to take away as they consider their vision and what they want out of their life. Alex, thank you so much for being here with us today. Please tell how people can get in touch with you, follow you, and get to know more about what you do.
Yeah, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, now that you've heard my journey, if there's someone in the same journey, similar journey that I can give of some guidance, right? And I don't like to call it advice because everyone's path is different. But if there are some things you want to work out, right, in terms of mindset, and I would say I'm pretty fair at trying to help people out with their thoughts, not so much push them towards a certain way, but help them figure out what their goals are, right? So yeah, reach out.
Yeah, and we'll link all of that in the show description. And Alex is super active on Facebook, sharing content and everything. So definitely go follow him and learn more about what he does. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much for being with us today. And can't wait to have you back on. Till next time, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much.